The Engineer is one of the most unique and interesting classes I've ever seen in a shooter. That's a pretty strong statement, but I'm here to back it up. TF2 has 9 classes, and they all function in really different ways. This sounds obvious, but a lot of shooters with classes or heroes fail to differentiate their characters from one another sufficiently. I mean, look at Valorant. That game has heroes with different abilities, and they all look superficially different from one another, so how do you actually use them? The same way every time. Each character uses the same guns and they all have very similar abilities. A vision blocking smoke grenade or flash grenade, a movement ability, an ability to restrict enemy movement, or an ability to somehow see enemies through walls. Every single character in Valorant is identical to fight against when shooting at them, and the minute differences in how their abilities function doesn't set them apart from one another at all. They walk and run and shoot identically to one another. This is just Counter-Strike wearing Overwatch as a hat, not something unique. TF2 is an example of this concept done well. Not only are each of the characters easily distinguishable at a glance, they all fill different roles. Demo Man is wonderful for locking down choke points, area denial, and dealing massive damage to big groups. Scout and Spy are each equipped to infiltrate behind enemy lines and assassinate key targets. Scout with his speed and double jump, and Spy with his invisibility and instant kill backstab. The classes don't just look different, they each have a defined role that is easy to spot at a glance, even for a new player. But these roles aren't set in stone. Spy's main job is infiltration and assassination, but he can also contribute to the fight on the front lines with his revolver, dealing consistent burst damage at mid-range from in the midst of his team. You could jack this damage up to 11 with the Ambassador or Diamondback, revolver unlocks that make Spy flat out dangerous if his aim is decent. None of the classes in TF2 are one-dimensional, they just excel more or less in different situations. And then we get to the Engineer, what I feel is TF2's most unique and frequently misunderstood class. What even is he? Is he defense? Support? Offense? It isn't immediately obvious which role he fills. And to be clear, I'm not talking about the arbitrary roles in the class select screen where they stick one of the best offensive push characters in video game history in the defense category. I'm speaking more in a general sense. The secret is, he's all three at once. Unlike pretty much every other class in TF2, Engineer can seamlessly go from being a defensive powerhouse to a supportive one. He can flank the enemy with a shotgun just like Scout, provide area denial like Demo Man, sneak into the enemy base like Spy, and run down choke points with reckless abandon like... Okay, well, every class can do that, but the Engineer can succeed a surprising amount of the time. He's such a diminutive little mole man that enemies often don't consider him a combative threat until it's too late. Everybody knows the Sentry gun is insanely powerful, but nobody expects the Engineer himself to start blasting people with any efficacy until it happens.
We're charging an engineer?
The stock shotgun is really good at killing people, which shouldn't be surprising. It's a shotgun, but it's a secondary weapon on every class except the Engineer, so everyone thinks of it only as a backup weapon, a finisher for when their primary runs out of juice. But the Engineer proves just how lethal a shotgun in the right place at the right time can be. The dispenser and the teleporter are probably the buildings your team will be the most grateful for. Dispensers refill health and ammo of anyone who stands next to them, and teleporters teleport. With good placement, you can turn any spot on the map into your team's spawn point, especially since level 3 teleporters can spit out teammates every 3 seconds. The Sentry is iconic, but it honestly gets destroyed really quickly if left unattended. It has perfect aim and high DPS, especially at level 3, but it can't move and relies on a clear line of sight to do damage, making Demo Men especially good at blowing them up. The Sentry is substantially more powerful when used alongside your shotgun, since you can spread the damage between multiple people or apply double pressure to a single target, depending on the situation. Engineer has often been defined by his unlocks, but don't let that fool you. Stock Engineer has every chance to work very well on offense and defense. And that is what I find so endlessly enjoyable and unique about the Engineer, that he's a fluid, dangerous class that constantly swaps between the various roles of every other class, which only gets more extreme when you throw in his unlocks. The Eureka effect can guarantee your ability to infiltrate and escape even better than Spies and Scouts with its teleportation. The Gunslinger gives Engineer the HP boost needed to be a proper combat class, and is frankly ridiculous when combined with the Frontier Justice or Widowmaker. The Jag lets you build and redeploy buildings almost faster than the enemy can destroy them, but you don't need any of that. Engineer is so flexible and nuanced on his own that you can easily perform every role in this game with 0 unlocks. It is true that being a jack of all trades leads to being a master of none, but it's better than being a master of one. While every class has some flexibility, only the engineer is truly comfortable in all roles, which is why he's so fun to play. Because no matter what the game state is, offense, defense, winning, losing, the engineer has something to bring to the table, to respond to what the enemy is doing and to fill gaps in his own team. Is a scout technically better at dropping enemy medics, backcapping, and dueling power classes? Yes, but those are the only things Scout can do. Is it easier to provide area denial with Demo Man's sticky bombs rather than taking the time to set up a level 3? Of course, but then Demo is stuck watching the bombs while the engineer can leave his sentry and go blast people or maintain his supportive buildings, something made especially easy by equipping the Frontier Justice, which rewards you when your sentry gun is destroyed. There's so much room for creativity when playing this class, and yet it's all built off a shotgun, a pistol, and a few very simple buildings. There have been building characters before, even ones that build sentry guns, but none of them have the same universal applicability of the engineer. The great thing about all this is that the engineer, even though he's incredibly versatile, is not too strong. Buildings take time and cost metal to set up, and moving them can be really risky, leaving you slower than normal and defenseless while carrying them. If you just shoot people with a shotgun and don't set up any buildings, you might not live longer than a few seconds. You have to be very aware of your surroundings and keep possible escape routes in your mind in case a sudden rush of enemies destroys your buildings. Engineer gets stronger the longer he's alive, but he never becomes invincible. It's a testament to how good Valve's design is that they made an FPS character this unique, versatile, and situationally strong without going so far as to make him unbeatable. An entire team of engineers would lose handily to a well-balanced enemy team. And that's how it should be. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more, consider subscribing. I'm always working on new stuff. I guess the only problem left is that I'm not really sure how to conclude a video like this, so...
You know what this team could use? 5 more snipers. Ah!